Hello and welcome to the Hurricane Florence edition of the Weekly Ring. We're your hosts, Ebony Duell
and Destiny Collins.
At the top of the show today, we have a couple cancellations for you all. Friday's career and internship fair has been postponed, as well as Sunday's church service.
Tune in next week for an update on First Women elections.
For all of you staying on campus, please check with your RDs and RAs for special arrangements for the dining hall.
And in a moment, we'll be right back to have our interview with Justin Riley to discuss Hurricane Florence.
We want to pass along our thoughts and prayers to the family of Ava Taylor Williams, class of 1969. She passed away this week. We want to recognize her for her years of love, dedication, and support to our college.
All right, welcome back to the Weekly Ring. I'm here with Justin Riley, a doctoral student over at North Carolina A&T. How are you today?
I'm doing fine.
That's good. Can you tell us more about your program that you ran at A&T?
Yeah, I'm part of the doctoral program at the Applied Science and Technology Department at A&T. We are specializing in environmental, atmospheric science, and other technology courses there. And my specialty is atmospheric science and also what we're talking about today, which is hurricanes.
Okay. And what can you tell us the significance of Hurricane Florence and how it's going to impact North Carolina this week?
Like I think you've heard a lot from the news and everything. It's a pretty big storm.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it Category 4, Category 5. It was once a Category 5, now Category 4. That means very strong winds, a lot of property damage, a lot of flooding, flash floods. If you're living along the coast, you have storm surge, which also cause flooding. So we're looking at a pretty significant storm.
Okay. More with this storm, people really don't know the difference between the categories.
Yeah.
So can you give us the definitions of the category 1 through 5?
Yeah, no problem. For a Category 1, we're looking about 70-mile winds, a little higher. You're going to see some property damage, not a lot. You might see some trees be toppled over on the roads. Category 2, stronger winds. As the categories of the winds get a little bit stronger. A little bit more property damage. You also start worrying about storm surge a little bit, so that flooding on the coast. Category 3 and 4, that's when we start seeing very strong winds, enough to blow off shingles of roofs, even topple over power poles, could cause power outages in areas. We're having flooding, significant flooding. These are the storms you don't want to be outside with. Mm-hmm. And Category 5, which are sometimes rare but still happen, these are the most dangerous storms. You're talking about plus 150 miles an hour winds. We're talking about significant damage for property. Deaths can occur if people are caught outside during these storms. Massive flooding in areas. So very dangerous.
And I know I've heard that Wilmington is evacuating. Is that correct?
Yes, Wilmington at this moment should be starting to evacuate the area.
Okay, and I know that's close to the beach and everything.
Yep.
So tell me the difference, if you can, like when you live on a beach or an island versus when you live somewhere like in Greensboro.
So when we're talking about Greensboro will see those high winds. We'll have some flooding. But what we won't be seeing is massive amount of damage. We're not going to be as close to the storm as Wilmington is. Wilmington would be basically ground zero for this storm. They'll have the high winds. There'll be the storm surge, which is that water rushing from the ocean, will flood the areas. There will be power outages. It will be very significant. I hope that everyone in Wilmington has evacuated by now. If not, they need to. A storm like this is not something you need to be staying in your home if you're in Wilmington.
Okay. And do you think that this storm will have such a big impact as storms like Hurricane Katrina?
Yeah, it could have the same impact. The biggest problem with storms like this is the power outages. if power does go out in these areas, we don't know how long it's going to take for them to get back up. Also, if it's strong enough winds, like it looks like, there are chances for people to lose their homes as well, like we saw in Katrina. Also, the big thing with hurricanes is the flooding. So that rise of water, depending on how much flooding is in the area, it might be very significant. We might be seeing something like Katrina, yes.
And as of today, we see the hurricane is moving more towards South Carolina and some parts of Carolina still.
Yep.
How much damage do you think will be done to the Greensboro area itself?
Right now, it looks like we'll have about 4 to 6 inches of rain. We might have some flash flooding in the area. That's still common for Greensboro. I would not panic about massive flooding. High winds is still a factor we have to worry about, so there might be some power outages in some areas, but we won't be seeing the brunt of the storm. That would be more of the coastlines and of Wilmington and Myrtle Beach.
And what's the difference between Florence and past hurricanes that we've seen in North Carolina? Is there much of a difference?
Other than strength, not really. One of the things that Florence is a little bit different, it got affected by a cold front that stalled it out in this ocean for a little bit, but it seems that cold front has shifted it down a little bit from the northern path they had before. It had it going completely through North Carolina. Now it's shifted down a little bit southern to South Carolina, so South Carolina's going to get a little bit more than expected, but not really any difference before past hurricanes. This is a little bit stronger, though. So we're talking about just a very stronger storm with higher winds and a lot more rainfall.
Okay. And to step aside from the hurricane for a while, what made you decide to become a meteorologist?
It was one of my things growing up. I love the weather. Living in Alabama, I was able to see a tornado up close. So weather is something that's always fascinated me. And being a meteorologist is one of those things where I get to research something that's unpredictable. So that's always something that's something cool, I guess.
Okay.
And a lot of people think that meteorologists only work on TV. Do you guys do that or just other stuff too?
We've had some people in the past that have gone to TV. Some notable people are Patrick Peak, who's a meteorologist in Tennessee. But meteorologists don't always have to go to television. We can work for private sector companies. We can work for the government. Basically, everyone needs access to weather charts and need to understand meteorology. So there's a lot of jobs out there for people.
What piece of advice would you give the people out there and worried about the hurricane in Greensboro?
The biggest advice I would give to the people in Greensboro is not to panic. We are talking about a hurricane, but the worst thing to do during a hurricane is to panic. If the power goes out, don't worry, it will come back on. If we are told to evacuate, just note where the evacuation areas are, and like I said, don't panic. Panicking is the worst thing you can do during an event like this.
Okay. And what social media platform or any platform that you have that we can reach out to you just in case we need more insight on the storm?
If you need to reach me, you can reach me at the mesolab.us, which is the Atmospheric Science Department's website run by my professor. Social-wise, I'm not really into the Twitter, kind of an old man that way. But, yeah, best way to reach me is through A&T's Mesolab.
Okay.
And next time there's a severe storm or any type of weather in effect, can we call you to come back?
Oh, yeah. I love hurricanes, so I love to talk about them. So if anything like this cover comes back, I would love to come back. We do have 2 more storms out in the ocean, so if by any chance they come this way, I would love to talk about them.
Okay.
Well, I'm glad that we had Justin stop by and talk to us today. Do you feel a little bit more relieved having him here?
Yes, to give me more insight on the categories and the differences, and also to talk about what Greensboro will have, like the impact of it. I feel secure. I feel like we're going to be okay after this storm.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people have left campus, but for those of us staying here on campus, we'll have Chief Bradshaw here to talk about some preparations that they have made here on Bennett College's campus. And we're back with Chief Bradshaw, Director of the Department of Campus Safety here at Bennett College. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Ebony. How are you?
I'm doing good. So how has planning been this week for the hurricane?
It has been interesting. A lot of meetings with the Emergency Management Response Team. And this team consists of vice presidents and directors of various departments across the campus.
And how are you in the Department of the Campus Safety preparing for the hurricane?
We are planning accordingly, pretty much following the procedures and protocols that is listed in the emergency management plan. We are making sure that we have enough supplies as far as flashlights, walkie-talkies, and things of that nature to assist with the resident directors in case power outage or in case communication breakdown.
And what are some changes that will be made to the residence halls during this time?
Well, one change that was implemented today is that due to the severity of the storm, Student Affairs have implemented a curfew. I want to say about 8 p.m. Thursday through Sunday, just for the safety of the students.
And what are some tips you can give students that are staying here on campus?
Some tips, just remain inside if all possible. Be away from windows. Have your cell phone charged in case of power outage, because you may need it for a flashlight or even to communicate with family and friends. If you can get out to get some snacks, something that you know you're going to be inside in case power outage, and just relax.
And what about the parents? Because I'm pretty sure you guys are going to get some phone calls from parents just in case there are power outages. So what would you tell them?
I would tell the parents that over the past 30 years, the only major hurricane that I can recall is Hurricane Hugo that affected the Triad area, but the damages were not extensive. So I do believe that, especially with the pattern of the storm, the way that it's headed, that only thing we'll get is just heavy rain and a possible flood.
Do you expect any flooding here at Bennett?
If there are flooding, it'll probably be minor due to where a building may be located. If it is in a dip or the bottom of a hill, it may get some flooding, but I don't anticipate flooding here at Bennett College.
And what would you say to the students that are worried and want to go home?
I would say, due to the traffic, especially for people evacuating from the East Coast, it will be pretty difficult to travel. I know that Amtrak have canceled a lot of their travel as well, but just to remain calm and pretty weigh out the storm.
If this hurricane doesn't impact us much, will you feel like this was wasted time?
I don't feel like it'll be wasted time because of the planning, because we want to hope for the best and plan for the worst. And plus, with the meetings and the strategic planning, it's better to have a plan in place in case something happens in the future, and we'll already have this under our belt.
Has your workload got heavier this week?
It has, because attending meetings and also planning, setting up schedules, putting in probably 12 to 14 hours a day.
Well, I want to thank you, Chief Bradshaw, for taking time out of your day to speak to me. How can people get in contact with you in case of an emergency?
They can call 336-370-8621. That is a 24-hour dispatcher number. And they can email me at kbradshaw@bennett.edu. Also, in closing, I would like to thank our emergency management response team and the staff of the Department of Campus Safety for all the hard work and the time that they put in for preparing for this hurricane.
Thank you all for tuning in to this episode of the Weekly Wing. We hope you all have a safe week.
And we also want to close out today's show with highlights from past week's North Carolina Folk Festival.
Kicking off the North Carolina